You're listening to the Surgeons of Horror podcast, the Jaws franchise.
Welcome to the Surgeons of Horror podcast. Its purpose is to look into the horror films, dissecting them one screen legend and franchise at a time. Our podcast subject for this episode is the legendary Jaws franchise. In order to successfully do this, though, we need to form a team of horror aficionados who will form the surgical team each episode. So let me introduce you. First up, yours truly, Paul Farrell. I'm the lead surgeon and host for this series of the podcast. And joining me in each episode at the operating theatre is a select team of horror aficionados who are hand-selected to perform the surgical task of dissecting each movie. Joining me this time is Chief Surgical Technician Ben Skinner.
Hello.
Who will literally get into the guts of the subject and really kind of dissect the subject at hand. And alongside us is some new blood in the form of Nick Alford.
Hello.
Welcome aboard, Nick.
Thank you, mate.
And he's on hand with some surgical tools and know-how to offer throughout the procedure. So that's the team. Without further ado, let's dissect our movie discussions, as we said, the Jaws franchise. And it's we're going to start with talking about the movie that started it all, Jaws, which was brought to our screens back in 1975 and has been sending waves throughout the industry ever since. Do you like that? You like that? Way! We can spend a bit more time on this one, clearly. But before we begin, it's probably important to address. I don't think any of us were born at the time. Am I right, Nick?
No, 1980.
1980 for you, and you're 1986,
yeah.
and I'm
Bloody hell.
1978. So
So
we're all
realising how young Ben is, Jesus.
Yeah.
I just realised I'm in the room with two bombs. I'm finally outnumbered.
That's it. You are, yeah.
Yeah.
So look. Obviously, I think that the reason why I wanted to address that is I think that lends weight to how significant this movie is, in the sense that by the time we were probably experiencing those kind of movies, that. It was already kind of embedded in the psyche of both horror and film and blockbuster legend. By the time we're out of nappies and aware of what these things were.
That's the thing for horror movies with me as a kid, was it was always something you weren't allowed to watch.
Right.
And that's, like you're saying, working out our ages and things, that's a real good point, because I don't watch as much horror as I did when I was younger.
Yeah.
Because then it was sort of like it was dangerous and naughty and really scary, and
Yep.
And then that's a big deal for me with Jaws. Definitely was just it was scary.
Yeah.
And that's why I remember my mate's older brother had all the scary movies, so I'd always borrow them off him and try and watch them in the middle of first thing in the morning before anyone woke up.
That's exactly right, and we've tapped on that a bit before, and I think Miles is an exception to the rule where he was just allowed free reign of horror movies when.
That's
But it's true. It's important to address that because that gives our listeners an idea of where you've come into the horror scene and experiencing it. From when you were a kid.
But the age thing's interesting because I specifically remember not being allowed to watch this. It was all my cousins. They were all older than me.
Yeah.
They were all off watching
Everyone's
it.
older than you, Ben.
Watching it somewhere else in the house, and I had to hang out with my uncle. And the whole time I just complained. I'm just like, why can't I see it? It's like, do you know what mature audiences means? I'm like, no, you can't see it. You can't see an M-rated film until you know what mature audience. What's mature, man? I don't know.
before Google.
Yeah, before
Honestly.
Google.
So I don't know why he didn't just let me just go watch it with everyone else, because I just annoyed the shit out of him.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because when you do look back at this movie, it can easily slip into kind of family entertainment viewing.
Yeah.
Obviously, with parental guidance strongly attached to that.
Yeah.
Because now we're so used to seeing more extreme versions of horror.
Gore.
Yeah. Particularly the latter films in the franchise, they kind of slip more into so unbelievable.
It is quite tame by comparison to that stuff, but it took on this mythical quality for me because it was just like, when I'm old enough, I'm gonna see Jaws. That was the pinnacle of.
And you're still waiting now.
That's right.
Please let me watch it, Paul.
Just always asking for permission when I don't need to.
That's it. Okay, so look, let's. I've broken up the film into 3 sections. The first section, Act 1, is called the setup. So there's a bit of background to it too, and then we'll get into the early parts of what happens in the film. It took $9 million to make this movie, but it generated over $470 million, and so with it, the summer blockbuster was born. That kind of gives you an idea of what we're talking about here. The movie pioneered the way movies would be made and distributed from this moment forth. My question, I guess, is what were those key ingredients for its success? How did it become such a great piece of film? And how it was injected into the film history.
One thing that I don't remember as a kid, but I've seen it from previous documentaries and things, is the merchandising. It was the first time they'd really seen it on a T-shirt, and they took the initial. I remember Steven Spielberg saying he took the initial sketch of the shark, and he wanted that on a T-shirt straight away.
Yeah.
And then from then it just sort of spawned this thing. How, in America it wasn't normal to have that much of a wide reach.
Yeah.
And that's why it then formed the first blockbuster.
Yeah, no, that's great.
It's interesting because you see set photos of him and he's wearing Jaws merch, like while they were even shooting it. He's wearing a hat or whatever. Yeah. I thought that's cool when filmmakers do that. Like,
there was I was watching a documentary too, and I think there was an instance where there was a point where Spielberg was going to back out. He's thinking of backing out early on, and one of the key kind of honcho producers had deliberately had the shirt on and all the merch on when he walks in to just try and kind of go, no, I've got your back, I'm with you on this. And he believes that's what turned Spielberg around, but who knows?
It's just physical, I think.
Yeah.
Tangible.
That's right.
It's just interesting that it was really, it's kind of a shocky B movie, but it's become like this template for blockbusters. Whereas now, like, if you look at it, it's it's the genre, it's the mashing up of genres too.
Yeah.
I don't classify it.
This is
a
interesting.
horror podcast, yes.
Yeah.
But overall, I think Nick and I have had this conversation a lot about what genre Jaws is. I actually think it crosses over a few different genres, and we'll talk about the acts within the movie and how it changes genres.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, because it's like in my opinion, it is a horror movie, and I'm going to use an example of how Steve Miner, who directed Friday the 13th Part 2 and 3, described Jason as basically Jaws on land. So it kind of there tells you already that it leans quite heavily into the horror area. That's not to dismiss anything you've said about it, because there are huge amounts of it that are pure action adventure. So it's and comedy too.
If it was a straight up, if it was, and that's what made it more acceptable for mainstream audiences.
Yeah.
Because it did have those other elements to it that made it relatable and made it.
When Spielberg took this movie on, like, he'd already done Duel, and when he was looking at the script for this, he kind of was going, I can make this. It's essentially Duel, but it's on water.
Yeah.
And so that's how he kind of went and approached it. He was like, it's exactly the same movie.
He's like, Duel on water, and then the director's like, Jaws on land. This metaphor just keeps...
Somewhere the circle will be complete.
Yeah.
Well, the first director before Spielberg kept on referring to it as a whale. Maybe you're not the guy for us.
Well, it's funny you should say that, because it was heavily they use a lot of influence from Moby Dick in this as a guide. It's like hunting the big white whale. And they originally wanted to have there's a bit where there's a movie that they're watching in the town hall or something, and they were originally going to have Moby Dick on there, and particularly a scene in there with Gregory Peck. But Gregory Peck, because he had the rights to the movie, said no, and because he didn't think it was a good example of his work, and so it didn't happen. But the whole premise is what a dick, what a Moby Dick. But there you go. So
in the tone right.
So look, let's take a look at what actually happens in that, in a very kind of couple of sentences of what actually happens in that first setup. It's essentially you see Police Chief Brody, played by Roy Scheider. He's literally a fish out of water, in the sense that he's a New Yorker repositioned on Amity Island, a popular summer resort for what he believes will be a quiet life. This is until a woman, Chrissy Watkins, is violently attacked while swimming in the ocean. She's pulled under, all to the fabulous John Williams score. How integral was the music in this movie, guys? Like this, we've grown up knowing John Williams stuff since then, but it's such an iconic piece of music.
Yeah, it's almost hard to just talk about it, because it's it is referenced so much. Like, I can't even imagine being any other way.
Yeah.
Like,
it's sorry, go on.
So say Spielberg laughed, didn't he, first time he heard it, he thought, okay, that's great, that's really funny, play me what the real score. And he's like, no, this is it. and because it's so ingrained in our psyche now.
Yeah.
If we were to hear that for the first time today, we'd be going, oh, that's a bit daft.
Yeah.
But then you see it in context, and it's bloody incredible.
It's such a signature thing, isn't it, too? Because there's later on there's a red herring moment where the kids are playing and the music's not there. So the audience already kind of knows that subconsciously that this isn't the real thing before it happens, because the music's not accompanying the killer shot.
Show that, like, some of the best themes are ones that you can play on a piano quite easily. Like, the Halloween is just the same. A couple of notes is just repeated over and over.
Yeah.
It's the same feeling.
That's right.
If someone started playing the Halloween theme right now, like everyone would kind of like sit up. And get a little bit of goosebumps
for sure
hearing it. But I think a lot of people know this theme even if they haven't seen the film.
Which
is
that's right.
The biggest, indication of how popular it is.
Yeah.
How much of an impact it had.
Absolutely.
And that's what surprised me. Rewatching it again, actually watching it yesterday.
Yeah.
It felt like I was watching it for the first time.
Yeah.
I knew I loved this movie, but I haven't seen it maybe 10 years.
Yeah.
Probably. And I loved it as a kid and watched it a bit as a kid.
Yeah.
And then going back to it now, I'm like, oh, I get all the subtle nuances.
Yeah.
And the music was one thing that stood out, going, oh, the music's not just... I mean, it's on the opening credits, fair enough, but you don't really hear it unless the shark attacks.
That's right.
And so when you do get that red herring, there's no music, it's like, well, look, there's no music.
Yeah.
Kind of.
And they
That's
use
right.
it, and also the trailer, the theatrical trailer for this is awesome. Like, it's proper old school. It's like, goes forever. And it's got the score in it as well.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure. But it's just one of those things. It's like, so even seeing the trailer, people would just be like, oh, what is this?
Yeah.
It gives away so much though. By today's standards, it's filled with spoilers. And the voiceover is amazing.
Have to look it up.
But yeah, again on the music, my concern is that when my kids are old enough to watch it, because I even debated in my head, like my kids are 8 and 6, I'm like, oh, is it really that scary?
Yeah.
They're not going to watch it, don't worry. But when they do come to watch it, maybe it's a case of it being so parodied in all the cartoons they watch, all the movies, that they'll sort of laugh at it a bit.
Yeah.
Going, oh, it's that silly music. I remember that from a different movie or a different show.
Yeah. That's right. No, that's exactly. We've all become a bit kind of sensitized to those kind of things. That it's not, or desensitized, I should say, to those sort of things. That it doesn't really have the impact. But then, like, I just echo what you were saying though. I when I rewatched this for the podcast, and it's been a while since I've watched the movie, I realized how good the movie was again. Like, it was like I almost enjoyed it again for the first time. It's like, and I was just, that really to me shows a sign of how strong the movie is and that it still stands up. We've done a few podcasts now, and I could probably hold my hand up and say that there's only probably a handful that probably has that.
They still stand up.
That still stand up. Like, maybe I can't even count it on one hand.
Yeah, true.
That's not to say that some of the movies that we've enjoyed watching, but there's a different sense of enjoyment with this one.
Yeah, definitely.
So look, just to round out the final act of the first act, so we kind of see Chrissy, the body of the girl's remains, discovered on the shore the next day, and then Brody tries to shut down the beach, only to be overruled by the mayor, whose eyes are firmly set on the summer economy. So we've already had like this opening act then. So what are our initial thoughts on how they've set that up, the tone of the piece, and the fact that you do have, Brody's character who's supposed to be an official, but he's not got really any power. He's almost been kind of, walked all over, and, it's already setting him up as the fallen hero who's got to prove himself to...
Yeah, you're rooting for him.
Yeah.
Because you're just thinking, everyone else is just so stupid. Why can't they just... Brody, man, he knows what's going on.
Yeah, it's very much like Stranger Things, the same way the cop in that, forgotten, is Hopper.
Yeah.
He's another big city cop who's now come to a small town.
Yeah.
And it's the same sort of parallel.
Yeah.
I know that's on Stranger Things. I really love that guy's character. I think he's just there's already early on
he's probably
the first scene he was in. It just got me hooked. I was like, yeah. There's something about you. It's really clever.
But he's very he's a very damaged character. I'd say Brody's possibly more of.
He's not so or he gets a bit damaged by the end of it. But
when we first meet him, on the surface anyway, he's quite a well-adjusted kind of family man.
Yeah.
Just surrounded by idiots, it seems.
Well, Steven Spielberg's saying before that he's supposed to be the audience. He needed someone for the audience.
Yeah.
And, sorry to quote too much lore here, but, there was an interview with Steven Spielberg where he said he was at a party, sat by himself, and no one was talking to him. And then this guy came over, Roy Scheider, and just started talking. He basically poured his heart out to him and thought, wow, this isn't every man. And he said, my real problem is I need someone to play this lead character.
Yeah.
Like, well, I can do it. I'm an actor. And apparently, that's the story.
Yeah. That's right.
I think that's what he wanted. He wanted an everyman that, from the start, you can be in his shoes. He's a family man.
Yeah.
He's, like you say, fish out of water.
Yeah, that's right. It's set everything up right.
Sorry, I just had this image of Spielberg alone at the party.
That'll never happen again.
Just that, a slow tracking shot. Just like all these people having fun around him.
Sad Hulk music.
Yeah, that's right. Roy Schneider comes out of nowhere.
Cool. All right, so let's now get into the meat of the movie, the middle act, and where more deaths occur. So we basically have like Brody reluctantly agreeing to go along with the plan of keeping the beaches open, but of course another fatal shark attack occurs, including an off-screen dog death. You've always got to have a dog death. It's an unwritten rule in horror.
That's what actually put the rating up to M.
It was
PG.
Yeah. The second victim though is a character called Alex Kintner. And he's pretty much, it's a great scene, this bit. He's like, you've got the whole kind of ocean as you're looking out from the beach from Brody's POV, and you literally see like the character kind of get ripped, pulled down, and a splurge of blood come gusting up, and as he's literally torn apart. And then you get that kind of that great tracking shot, that's been used from Hitchcock,
dolly zoom,
which is done, with great skill in this one too. So it's probably one of the most iconic shots within this movie.
Definitely.
Alone, it's
just that with the music, and the two just works.
Exactly.
When watching it as a parent now, I won't go on about being a parent too much, but watching it as a parent,
I get the sense you're a parent.
Yeah. So I'm a dad. Watching it as a parent, seeing the little kids go in there, swimming around, and then the scene that really makes my heart drop, which I don't even probably remember from a kid, is where there's a definite clear line of everyone who's got out of the water, and they're standing there, and then there's the actress, the mum, who's sort of looking for a kid, and she's the only one who hasn't picked up her own kid.
Yeah.
And putting two and two together, it's like, oh, mine will be the one in bits and pieces.
Yeah.
Process of elimination. That leg's mine.
Oh, so it's I know the bit you're talking about too. It's just it's a really kind of.
It's a great scene within. It's one of those things where you could pick out this scene in isolation and look at it, and there's a great video essay online actually, which we should share.
Yeah, put it. We'll put it on links on the bottom
because it pulls the scene apart. Bad choice of word. But there's a lot going on here, and the building of suspense. Just the way it's been edited and everything.
Yeah. Absolutely.
It's a real highlight, I think, this scene.
Yeah, you're right. There's so many like little, and the choreography of that alone is insane to kind of set all those little bits and pieces up. It's just.
And these are all extras as well.
Yeah.
So it's like featured roles, but still, it couldn't have been easy to get them all to do what they want to do.
That's right. Thanks guys. That's really cool. If I can just kind of bring us back to the other, as I said, the other characters of the piece in it. So we've got Hooper and Quint. What do you think of these two? They kind of stand up polar opposites of the ocean world, which is why there's that automatically have this kind of clash between the two. Both kind of to say that they're so expertly played still feels like an understatement. They're so good in this. I just wanted to get your token thoughts on these two guys.
Well, I don't think they're traditional like movie characters either.
No.
Like it's almost like they've wandered in from real life, but I mean Quint's obviously quite exaggerated.
Yeah.
But just like Dreyfus, he's just like a bit of a nerd, isn't he? And he's just kind of not a traditional. I mean, it's not that he's a leading man, but you know, I don't know.
He wasn't a leading man at this point.
I don't think he's an overly good-looking dude either.
He became a leading man after this.
Yeah.
And he's quite, he's quite shaggy looking.
Yeah, yeah.
And
there's an interesting thing about how he got the role, because he was offered it and he turned it down, and then he, in his own words, he was in this movie, went along, and it just sunk like a dead duck.
Yeah.
And he kind of went crawling back to Spielberg and kind of went, about that role.
Yeah.
And you know, begging him literally to kind of recast him as it, which is, you know, it's hard to think of anyone else, you know, playing that role now. And of the three, he's the one that came out, like, a lot of audience reacted strongly to his character, the most of the three characters that were in it, and so much so that Robert Shaw got a bit kind of titsy about it and was like, you know, he's the one that's got all the limelight, blah 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 blah, and was a bit gruff about it.
Because they were definitely polar opposites. Because you had,
Yeah.
you know, young, old, you know, extremely wealthy, not particularly well off.
Yeah.
You know, and they had that on set, and it was incredible. And they both had so many funny lines.
Yeah, so
It's
good.
incredible. Even stuff that wasn't scripted, just them, you know, pulling funny faces.
Yeah, that's right.
Apparently, there was real hatred of them on set. I say apparently, you know, Richard Dreyfuss is open about how much they didn't like each other.
Yeah.
And how much of a bad drunk, you know,
Robert Shaw was. Yeah.
So you get a lot of that tension watching the movie with that knowledge in mind, and seeing the way they spar off each other. It's great because you can actually feel that venom.
Yeah.
And then I won't jump to the sort of next few acts, but you know, they sort of resolve their differences and things like that.
It's almost like that, and I know the bit you're talking about. It's almost like that was actually happening in that moment as well, for the ad lib stuff down the track.
But and then Brody's obviously that trying to wedge, trying to keep them apart,
That's right.
keep them at arm's length.
I have to say though, I like, you know, I obviously didn't know the guy, but I really love Robert Shaw's character in this. Like, for me,
incredible.
And like a lot of the lines he's got in there are actually from the local fishermen as well. There's the Ben Gardner character. Was actually a local fisherman and had all these wild kind of phrases and stuff, and they used that a lot with Quint's character in there.
So as ridiculous as it does sound, it's taken from
yeah, that's right.
Actual lines,
And there's a song that he sings as well a lot in it, and like Spielberg kind of pulled him up and just said, "Oh, we've just got to make sure we've got rights to kind of sing that." And he goes, "Oh, I kind of it's actually taken from a gravestone that I read." You know, years ago, and I'm just kind of singing it as a song. It's like,
I didn't know that.
It's
a good memory he's got there.
Yeah. Anyway,
the internet.
That's it. Yeah. Just where do I get where do I get my resources and gravestones? So we have the bond, as we're saying, forming a bit more strongly between Brody and Hooper at this stage, as they venture off in search of local fisherman Ben Gardner, who's gone missing. They discover the boat, half sunk, and evidence of a shark attack. When Hooper goes to investigate, we get the now infamous jump scare with Gardner's head popping into view. Is this still a genuine scare? Does this stand up to today, do you think?
Holy shit, yeah. Because I knew about... This is... When you say Jaws to me, that's the one scene that stands out for me, because I remember a family friend, she was about the same age, and she watched it. It would terrify her. And to me as a kid, I don't know, it wasn't as scary watching it as a kid, but... I knew the moment was coming up. It's the anticipation of him in the black water, going down. They're hunting for a bloody shark. Let's go into the black water and swim around. So I didn't expect to be scared by this, because I'm actually waiting for it almost beat by beat.
Yeah.
And I had my headphones in when I was watching it last night on my iPad, and I'm sitting there watching it, and I actually physically jumped. And I've watched some horror movies recently, and you can see it coming. That's there, you know. Like, I didn't jump once at Shallows.
Yeah.
Get to that.
Yeah. We'll talk about that later. Let's not compare the two right now.
No.
But yeah, I physically jumped, and I haven't done that in ages. And especially knowing it was coming, I don't know how they managed. I think because there was a music cue or like a sound effect that I don't remember. There's like a real screech or something.
Yeah.
Which I wasn't expecting. I think that's what really caught me out.
Yeah. Right. Yeah,
but it also happens. It happens like after you're expecting something to happen. I think.
Yeah, there is that moment, isn't there?
Yeah,
it's like a beat before it happens.
Usually the best ones do that. It's like they fool you into thinking that there's tension. There's nothing actually going to happen.
They turn one way, then they turn back, and then it's like, oh shit.
Yeah. But I mean, how important? It must have been so important to get that prosthetic right.
Yeah.
Because it could have been hilarious if it had been done.
Oh, it looks stupid, yeah. But that's the kind of thing, like, not that I'm an expert on discombobulated bodies or or things, but, it's that when it's submerged in water, it does kind of give a bit of a look anyway, and I think that it kind of works. I think if you had, like, a head, if it was, if you were out of the water and just had a head kind of swing down, I don't think it would have had the same kind of impact.
It's the eyes, or
yeah,
I should say.
Yeah.
When something pops out, it's like, all right.
Yeah. All right, let's go.
And it's been referenced a lot, not just jump scares, but like actual moments where there's someone's head, like dead body, just appears. Like in Gravity, I think when Sandra Bullock goes back to the craft and one of the fellow astronauts just kind of, there's a music cue bang on, and it's just ah! But it's obviously like, it's where it was done first.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, exactly. All right, so
sorry, I was going to say, the actor who plays Ben Gardner, he was saying, on a later interview, he was saying how why'd the shark spit the head back out into the boat? That was nice and convenient. Like it was weird that that's the one thing he took from it, even though that's supposed to be his dead head.
Yeah.
In there, he was like, I was always surprised by that. Why would the shark chew me and spit me out and put me back in the boat?
Although, like, weirdly, I just watched the last episode of Fear the Walking Dead, right? And there's a bit in there where there's a, they basically kind of tear this, the zombies tear this person apart. And then you see the aftermath of the guy that's still alive walking off. And you see the corpse in shot. And there's still quite a lot of it left. My instinct was, why did they leave all that meat? There's plenty of human meat going. Are they only interested in the vital organs? Anyway, that was like a massive thing. But it's the same kind of thing. I had that weird kind of reaction to it. I was like, well, why is that? But then they
do the organs, typically.
It's just brains and heart and liver.
Yeah, no interest in the flesh itself.
Well, that's what I want. But surely that's where all the goodness is. Eh?
We need to get a zombie in.
Yeah, well, ask them. If you're a zombie, just write into us. Anyway, so that's off track. Yeah. There we go. Okay, so with a lack of evidence, the beaches remain open, but on the 4th of July weekend, another attack occurs in the estuary. Before that, though, is the aforementioned, we get that wonderful misdirect as some kids are playing a juvenile prank, pulling the officials and us, the audience, away from where the real danger lurks, which is where I think the beauty of this particular scene comes in. It's then that we're treated to our third on-screen kill, with the boatsman being pulled down and devoured by our shark, and Brody's son just about survives it. And this is kind of like the roundup of the middle act at this point. So what are your thoughts, not only on the kill, but of what's happening at this point in the movie?
Yeah, for me, it's you could almost think Brody's a bit selfish. It's like, oh, my son got attacked, so now I'm going to close the beach.
Yeah.
Now it's personal.
Yeah.
But we know that's not the case, because obviously he hasn't really had the hard evidence, despite what a few people have thought.
Yeah.
To actually close the beach proper.
Yeah.
Until they cut open the shark and find nothing. Yeah.
I think it's kind of not knowing what's coming next. Like, because obviously the whole film changes gears for the act that's coming.
Yeah,
but
that's right.
The weaker films would just continue along this trajectory of like body, another body. It's kind of like that's the brilliance, because it doesn't outdo it, outstay its welcome.
No.
And it doesn't stand still. Like, there's always forward momentum.
Yes.
Each kill's different.
Yes.
And there's not too many of them. Like after this one, it's just like, okay, things have gone up a gear. Bro, it's much. There's much more at stake for Brody.
Yeah.
And then it just keeps getting better from this point on.
I think if it's all right with you, we'll plough straight on, because what you said there ties in nicely to what I've written here about, the last act for me is essentially where the film really stands tall and becomes the iconic movie that we know. You've got Quint, Brody and Hooper set out for a hunt for the shark to lure in and kill the beast. You get these kind of quips and laughs along the way. This is where a lot of the comedy kind of starts really coming in. And it's there, and then we get that kind of break in the calm when Brody is laying down the chum in the water, and our shark emerges from the water out of the blue, and there's that kind of big kind of shock moment. So we're pulled into this kind of false sense of lull as they're all kind of having a bit of fun together, and you have that scare moment. But despite their best efforts to harpoon the shark, it disappears under the water. And from this brief appearance, Quint guesses that the shark is 20 feet 25 feet long. So we're really getting an idea of the size of the beast as well. We then have another calm moment, but with it some in-depth conversation between the three, and this is where it comes back to what you were saying. We've had all this kind of tension building between the two actors and the characters they portray, and it's almost like, you know, it was where the ice was finally broken here, and a lot of it was because of the malfunctions of the shark, and there was a lot of ad-libbed scripting going on in this. Nick, I'm gonna go to you. You feel like you look like I want to say something at this point. Yeah, go on.
Only because it's one of the best scenes in the entire movie.
Yeah,
it's just they've gone through all this, and that they're again lulled into another false sense of security.
Yeah.
They're getting smashed.
Yeah.
And the story is that Robert Shaw was actually properly smashed for this as well. And again, knowing that there's that tension between the two characters, and they start comparing, you know, war wounds, which was later emulated in Lethal Weapon.
Yeah.
To, I don't know, one of the
I think so.
movies,
Yeah.
Which is great, and then they suddenly they're toasting their legs because they've both got injured legs, and it's like they found a common ground now. You know, they've broken down that barrier that they've, you know, you're not so young and soft, and you're not so gruff and old. Yeah. And they find that happy medium. Brady points out Quint's tattoo of the USS Indianapolis, which I'm not sure if, you know, most people know, but that was when they if you've seen the movie as well, you'd have an idea, but delivered the bomb for Hiroshima and then attacked by a Japanese submarine. Yeah. And I think 1,100 men went into the water, and after days shark attack, I think about 300 men survived, roughly.
Yeah, it's a great story in its own. Yeah.
And that was sort of written and rewritten by the writers of the movie to get that moment right. Yeah. But you believe every word he says. Yeah. Like, you believe he was there.
Absolutely.
You know,
it's such a turn in the scene as well.
It is. It is, because we've had that kind of whole, you know, there's this light-hearted kind of banter that's gone on, and then all of a sudden it's undercut with this real kind of heart-rendering moment that this character's gone through, this hard, warm kind of character, and then you get a real insight as to why he's like that in this one instant. You know,
and it's crazy. You got two like classic moments, like one after the other. Yeah. Like the first one's obviously a bit more comedic and has been copied so many times. Chasing Amy is another one. Where they talk about their battle scars from sexual.
Yeah. That's right.
But then this one is just like, it's obviously that single like slow zoom. Yeah. And it really draws you into the story. And I'm curious to know why. Has there been a film made about that story?
I don't know. There probably has been.
There has, yeah.
I don't know.
Was it an older film or?
No, I think there was one maybe done about 10 years ago, maybe.
Oh, okay. Because I always thought, why doesn't Spielberg make like that film?
Movie? Yeah.
I remember thinking that when I saw it again, I'm like, oh, that'd make a great movie, and I'm pretty certain they've done one.
Right.
But in the right hands.
Yes, in the right hands.
Rebooted, yeah.
Like Jaws.
Yeah. So look, they with that though, just to kind of round out that particular moment as well. It's in the delivery of that particular story too, because his tone completely changes in the way he's talking, and that for me, that's why I'm a big fan of Robert Shaw. I think, you know, he was great in The Sting as well for me, and I just think he's such a great actor, and that kind of just that real subtle way of just changing the tone of his voice as he delivers that really it lays down the impact that it has on the viewer, and I think it was a great moment. And with that is also an indication that his days are numbered, because he's poured out his soul and his story to the audience, which we always know if you're going to do that, he pretty much is your swan song.
He might as well be having sex.
He may as well be having sex.
Or lose his virginity, that's always the one.
That's it.
You know?
What were you going to say?
I'm glad he didn't know.
Yeah, me too. Being awkward.
Come on, Brody. It's just 3 men on a boat.
There must be a Jaws Triple X somewhere.
But for me, it really felt like a campfire story.
Yeah.
Like, you know, there could be a bear out there, and they could be sat around a campfire, and he could be telling a similar sort of story.
Yeah, very true.
And that's what really worked, because it's almost like a separate story in itself.
Mm-hmm.
Just, you know, you could expect a jump scare, but you don't expect to sort of be scared verbally by him retelling a story.
No, that's right. That's right. But what, again, like, you know, another beautiful moment in this movie is that straight off the back of that, another attack comes when the shark, whose name is Bruce, in this they call him Bruce, rams the boat and kills the power, and then Quint smashes the radio, forcing the three to pit their wits against the beast. And it's almost like he's challenging himself at this point, that, you know, because of the ordeal he's faced before, he's like, no, it's just gonna be us against the shark. And then we get this like long chase, which results in the shark being harpooned, but the shark drags the deck under the boat. So Hooper attempts to go into the cage and inject Bruce with this hypodermic spear, but the shark it ends up attacking the cage itself and demolishes it. Hooper, though, does escape and then hides down in the rocks at the bottom. The shark then draws its attention on the boat and attacks the boat, and he basically starts tipping it into the, you know, so it starts to kind of move upwards, and in doing so propels Quint into the jaws of the shark as he fights for his life, before eventually being consumed and dragged beneath the surface in one of the most classic kills.
I was surprised at how gory that was, because I don't remember this being a gory movie.
No.
And then seeing that, I mean, the only sort of kind of flaw, if you want to say, is that the shark is a slow shark in this.
Yes.
Which is fine because you're building tension, but you know, when it's flapping around, like even watching the trailers for the subsequent movies, they have a fast shark, and it goes in this it's like Fast Zombies.
Yeah.
As opposed to walking, you know, the Day of the Living Dead.
Yeah, that's right. And you know, it's clearly a mechanical shark, but then having said that, it's such a great moment in this film. It's you know, we're seeing the gruff kind of fisherman.
That's actually coming to that.
Yeah.
The actual shark itself. I mean, that's probably another thing that kids nowadays, if they were to watch it, might find funny.
Yeah.
They might be like crack up when they see the shark.
Yeah.
It's just like, stop it, you're ruining it.
Well, they did that with The Shallows as well, without going to compare it too much. When you saw the shark, it's just like, oh god. You know,
and that was
CG
cutting
shark.
edge.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
Action, you know.
There you go.
Yeah. But it looks real, you know, for pretty much the whole movie, really, I think, most of it. Like when it's underwater, moving through water.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
When it's above.
Yeah. And the thing is, you don't see enough of it, which is part of the beauty of
Yeah,
the film.
yeah, exactly.
You know, which is obviously the constraints in it.
I always think with these things, it's like, just one shot is enough if you're going to keep it.
Yeah.
It's like I almost thought there was, once you have too many shots, it loses. That's why I think that latest Godzilla film, like, I think they could have, once they've shown him in the first, like, at the end of the first act or whatever, it's kind of like you've shown your cards.
Yeah.
From there on, it's just like,
I mean, like, you know, I sound like a bit of a broken record on these things. Like, the part of what makes horror so great is the unknown. We have, as a human race, a fear of the unknown. So the less you see of what's coming and attacking you, the more frightening it is. Yeah. And this, in a sense, it was partly because they had mechanical failure with the shark, but it, in a sense, ended up being part of its success, in the sense that we don't see it that often. And then when we get this kind of final moment, it really is quite a horrifying experience to see one of the leads being devoured by this thing.
Well, you love them by that point as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, that's the one thing with any good horror, in my opinion, is you can kill as many people as you like, but if you don't care about them, you know.
Which is why Unfriended doesn't work, because you hate those people. That's the social.
I haven't watched that.
That's social
obnoxious tweens.
You just go, I don't give a shit. Yeah, good on you. You're rooting for the people killing them.
Get that one next.
Yeah,
but there's also a satisfaction to that too. Maybe that was their intention.
Maybe that was it. Yeah, it could be.
Enjoy watching these people.
Yeah.
Okay, so look, not content with the feast, the shark returns for Brody and attacks the ship again. Brody basically uses his last defence by shoving a pressurised scuba tank into the shark's mouth. He then climbs the mast of the capsizing boat before firing a bullet into said tank. "Smile, you son of a bitch!" One of the famous lines. And then the tank explodes, killing the shark along the way. And we're left with Brody and Hooper paddling to safety in a makeshift raft as the credits close. Final thoughts on the final act.
It goes in. It's full action at the end, isn't it?
Yeah.
It changes again. But I think that even a film like this, it's got to have a one-liner in there somewhere.
Yeah.
And that's, you know.
I kind of was thinking of Aliens as well. You know, with the
Get away from it, bitch.
Yeah, it's that kind of just throwing the word bitch in it. You know, it's just like that'll do.
Yeah. But
iconic
it's funny how
line
some
sorted.
people latch onto some lines and not other lines, you know?
Yeah.
Like the probably like on par with that, if not more popular, is the "we're going to need a bigger boat" line. But it's just funny to me that like that line, if I was watching this for the first time, not knowing that was an iconic line, I don't think I'd think anything of it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But people just kind of just latch on.
Am I right in saying that was ad-libbed as well by Roy Scheider, that we're going to need a bigger boat?
I'm not sure. He says it a couple of times. He says, you're going to need a bigger boat.
Yeah.
That's,
Yeah.
the direct quote.
Yeah.
He says it a couple of times just to really get it. But the first time you hear that joke, it's great.
Yeah.
Oh, so this is one of those misquoted classic lines.
Probably.
It's like the Luke, I'm your father one.
Yeah, that's it.
It's like you can just hear the forums out there. So,
Yeah.
Tap on their keyboards. I think you'll find.
Wrong. Yeah.
It's got an upward inflection. All right, so look, let's talk about the stuff of legend. What has made this film so great? Interestingly, like some of the stuff that comes out of it. Spielberg was only 26 when he made this movie. He was 22 when he did Jewel, and that kind of really puts things into
It pisses me off, I tell you, being 36, going,
well, that's it.
I'm out of excuses. I was too young, now I'm too old.
No, that's it. And from the success of this, he went on to become one of the most successful directors in the industry. But the final product could have been very different. It was a troubled production, and it's been well reported upon its lack of script. It was short on cast at a point. The mechanical shark didn't work. And it should have taken 55 days to film, but it went on to take 159, which was obviously completely threw the production schedule out of the water. So why and how did this film become so successful if it was such a troubled product? Its success would inevitably lead to similar themed movies and inspirations, as we spoke about. Chief amongst these was Joe Dante's Piranha, a film that doesn't shy away from the fact that it was a blatant rip-off. So what do you think? What is it that makes this movie such a success? Why is it continually being used as a mantle up there for classic films?
For me, it's the way the characters are written, and one thing that keeps you going. Like I was almost prepared to watch this movie, like half watch it while I was doing something else.
Yeah.
Because I thought, I know this movie, I know this story, I know everything about it, and I'm watching it again, and I stopped what I was doing straight away, and I was transfixed.
Yeah.
Because there's all the nuances that I know, rewatching it now, like in the story. He's talking about how he'd never wear a life jacket again after his experience, and there's a moment where he actually grabs the life jackets and gives them a little glance, and then he just hands the 2 life jackets to the other guys and doesn't have one for himself.
Yeah,
there's just so many little things that if you're watching it and you're enjoying it.
Yeah.
But the big one for me that I completely forgot was just how funny this film was.
Yeah.
And I know they hired a comedy writer who went back and added extra things to it, and it really pays off because if you're enjoying the journey and you're entertained, then when the scares come, it really throws you. You have that real contrast of the funny and then the brutal.
Yeah.
And that's what works so well for me. It's just the comedy and the characters in it.
No, I couldn't agree more. It's there's so many beats that are so perfectly written in this that that just kind of keeps you pushing forward and onwards. It's basically become the hallmark of how to present not just a horror film but an action film as well.
That's why I like it, because it's just got, as I said, it's got all those elements of different genres mixed in together.
Yeah.
I don't think if it was any one of those things, that wouldn't probably have been as memorable for me, but I like that it evolves as it goes on. I like that it's, in some ways it's a bromance, like towards the end.
Yeah,
definitely.
One of the first bromances.
The audience cheered when they first saw this, when Hooper and Brody were together. In the original script, Hooper dies when the shark attacks the cage, and it was only because when they had a real shark kind of trying to kind of mimic the attack of the cage, it ripped the cage apart, but there was nobody in it at the time, but that was the best shot they had, and so they had to rewrite that around. So they basically rewrote the fact that Hooper escapes from the cage first.
And most people know or not, but they had to use a person of short stature, a little person to make the cage there to make the shark look bigger. Yeah, they hired a I'm going to say midget for lack of a better term, but yes, a short person to get inside a smaller cage. But because the cage was smaller, they had to make it in proportion, so the bars would be slightly thinner, and so the shark would then smash it up. Yeah. Unbeknownst to the person inside the cage, I should say his name rather than call him little person. But the problem was they hadn't actually allowed, because he had to have a little scuba tank to be in proportion, a little person uses the same amount of air as a normal height person.
Yeah.
And they hadn't allowed for that, so he was in the water for a couple of sucks of air, and then he had to get out, and that's when the cage got attacked.
Yeah, that's right, and that's the footage, and you can see it on the extras too. They've got it still, that kind of footage that some of it didn't make the final cut of the film, you can see how it's just really laying into this cage. And
it's one of those films where, like, obviously the behind the scenes story is just as fascinating as a real thing, but it's just. It could have been an absolute disaster. It could have.
It really could.
And I mean, we wouldn't be sitting here talking about it. Like, Spielberg's career could have ended, like, after. I'm pretty sure he would have come back and done something else, right? But it's his. He was always going to make this work just because he was always born to be no matter what happened, his passion was going to carry it through.
Yeah.
Everyone must have believed in him to actually
completely
continue to work on it and commit to it. So it just goes to show that you just have to be determined. You have to believe in the end product, no matter how fucking crazy it is. Now, there's exceptions to this rule. Tommy Wiseau making The Room, for instance.
But look, we're still talking about it now.
Yeah, they are.
It's a masterpiece in its own way.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I'm remembered as for as long as that movie. Everyone still knows about it. Everyone still watches it.
Yeah,
it's still in the cinema.
I know.
Yeah.
Keeps coming back.
There aren't many classics that can still say that.
Yeah. But yeah, I think he must have been like nervous still. Like anyone would be nervous after.
Yeah.
Imagine if it hadn't have struck a chord.
There were points where people, like production crew, were coming up to him going, "When's this movie going to end?" And he was like, "I don't know. I actually don't know when this is going to end. Maybe when they fire me."
Yeah.
It literally was at that point.
And he thought he was getting fired every day. Well.
Yeah.
Like he had someone at a party come up to him saying, "Oh, everyone's talking about this movie in New York, and they say this is going to ruin your career." He's like, "Oh shit, thanks for that."
It's just bittersweet because everyone looks at it and they're like, "Oh, such a legendary." Imagine being on the set of Jaws. It's like you really didn't want to be that guy. Like,
that's right.
It would have been the pressure would have been
insane.
Yeah.
And just the stress levels. Like, he's lucky he was 26 because he would have had a heart attack.
He probably would have.
Well, he would have chucked a Francis Ford Coppola.
Like Richard Dreyfuss completely hated his performance in it. He went publicly to interviews and said, "It's not Steven's fault. It's Universal's fault for not letting this character breathe. But I'm not happy with my performance in it."
Yeah.
And I then watched the movie and I'm just like, "What are you talking about? You nutter!" It's just believable. He's just believable the whole way. That's again another thing with good horror is that it's believable.
Yeah, that's
when
right.
You have people make stupid decisions in horror movies, like they run back inside the house or do something you wouldn't normally do as a person.
Yeah.
That's when you lose all believability.
That's right.
But all the characters and all the cast are so believable. You're in there with them the whole time.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. You're absolutely right. Is there anything else you want to say on the main movie before we kind of obviously it spawned a few sequels? Is there anything else you want to mention on the main movie at all, guys? I mean, we can come back to it if you want.
I still want to watch this. I still haven't seen this at the cinema. I want to watch it with a good print, and I think there was actually a 4K print done a few years ago on Blu-ray. So I have it on Blu-ray. I've watched it on Blu-ray. It looks great, but I want to see it on the big screen.
Yeah,
preferably on my bucket list is to watch it at the Dive-In Cinema.
I think
Austin, Texas has one.
I
always wants to do that.
But I'm pretty sure it's
I've
one of those
seen
things
that posted.
You can do it. There's a few places in the world that you can actually.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
But,
is that the one set in a lake?
Yeah. You float on a tube and
That's it.
Yeah.
That'd be awesome.
Someone grabs you underneath the water. You heard that?
Is that a rumor or is that?
Well, that's how I heard it pitched. This was ages ago, so I don't know.
Yeah. If just someone just tickling.
That'd be hilarious.
But you get someone just, even if it's not you watch someone else disappear when you're watching the movie, and they do it at the key moment.
Yeah.
Maybe we can make this happen.
We could.
Maybe
we could.
That's always been my dream to do that, like a secret cinema, but in the theme, like you watch Blair Witch. Product in the woods.
So funny.
The Wet n Wild out of Blacktown. I don't see why they couldn't do that.
Oh no,
that'd be awesome.
It's probably not family. Maybe possibly not family friendly.
Come on, kids!
It'd be a nighttime thing. Just get one at night.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
All right, so let's talk about the sequels really quickly. there was 3 of them that would come up. But I'm going to talk about them in chronological order. Jaws 2 would come to the screens in 1978. This was the one, aka the return of Scheider. Probably, no, I'm going to say it's not probably. It is the best of the sequels. And
it's not saying much.
It's not saying much, yeah. But it also was the one with the famous tagline, "Just when you thought it was safe to go back in the water," which has stuck ever since. Lorraine Gray would also return as Ellen Brody. Murray Hamilton also returns as the mayor. It also had issues with production and the shark, and went through a couple of directors too before it finally kind of surfaced. It would mainly centre around another shark, and to keep with the whole teenagers under threat guys, it would see Brody's kids Michael and Sean under threat in this instance. The death total was 7 victims this time round. There was 2 scuba divers at the beginning, some guy called Terry. For Terry. Diane, who was the one that ended up in the scene where she ends up burning herself and setting herself on fire when she's trying to fire a flare gun into the shark. There's a death of an orca whale in there. So we've moved away from the dog being killed to a creature of the sea.
Homage to the boat.
Maybe.
Orca.
Yeah, it could be. And then we get Eddie being killed in probably the better set up death scene in it. So he's the one that's the boat kind of gets pushed and he gets thrown into the water, and there's some while out swims up to try and get in, and then the shark pulls him down under just as he's about to get in. It's kind of a cool moment. Then the last couple of deaths, there's a helicopter pilot who gets killed. He's the one that comes to try and come to the aid of the stranded kids, and Marge, who's one of the said kids, is also killed at the end. Eventually, the shark would meet its end when it chews through a power cable and electrocutes itself.
Yes,
so,
I remember that.
So, what do you guys remember this particular one? And we were just having talk offline
as
about.
Saying, yeah, I remember bits and pieces. Like obviously that tagline. It's amazing that when you think about it, obviously it's not from Jaws. About let's go back into the water. But it still sticks.
Yeah, that's right.
But yeah, not much else.
No, for me, I just remember the ending. I remember that power cable bit.
Yeah,
and I sometimes confused that with the first one.
So do I. I don't know why. I don't know. When I was a kid, somehow managed to see Jaws 2 before Jaws 1. It's
your uncle had let you go at that point.
You can watch the shit ones first.
I was looking after my viewing back then, but I managed to see Empire Strikes Back was the first Star Wars movie I saw.
Okay.
Which seems fucking ridiculous now.
Weird order to do it in, but yeah.
Weird order, yeah. So 5, 6, 4.
Right.
That was the order.
Right, okay.
It's like, what the hell was going on in my household? Like, they were just missing that copy of A New Hope. And then
maybe. That's weird.
At least it was 1, 2, 3.
Did my dad actually believe that was the better order to watch the films? Like,
I don't know.
Either way, I was very confused.
I don't think you'd watch Return of the Jedi before Star Wars A New Hope, though, really.
No.
Personally.
But that was when I thought Ewoks were okay, though.
That's true.
That's why you can forgive Jar Jar almost, because we were going.
Wait, what?
No,
wait. That sentence cannot surely be strung together.
I said almost.
You mean if you're a kid?
If you're a kid.
Yeah.
Because,
it was a big franchise thing, wasn't it?
I say we, Ben and I.
I was borderline okay with him.
Yeah.
I was in year 7, so I was like semi on board with this. But
I wasn't okay with Jar Jar, but still, with the Ewoks, as a kid, I loved them.
The cartoon,
the toys,
Ewoks,
and the cartoon as well, and the merchandise and everything.
Yeah.
And that's why I feel a bit bad when again, not a fan of Jar Jar, but still, kids loved it.
They did. I remember, the backpack thing as well. There was kids went nuts over him before even the movie had come out. People were like, "Oh, that's a cool looking thing."
Little did they know. Jar Jar tattoo.
The actor that Ahmed Best, the guy who played Jar Jar, must be so thankful that it was performance capture. So he doesn't get shit thrown out. No one recognises him in the street. Yeah. Whereas Jake Lloyd is just not doing so well these days.
He gets recognised in prison, I think.
Ooh.
Yeah, I think
just
from other tattoos.
No, I think he got locked up.
Really?
Yeah, he did.
Oh,
jeez. It took a dark turn all of a sudden.
Yeah.
All right.
The police force was with him.
Talking about things turning darker, let's look at Jaws 3D. 1983, this one came out, directed by Joe Alves. Jaws 3D saw the attacks take place in a SeaWorld centre. It starred Dennis Quaid and Leah Thompson amongst its alumni, and I used to have a huge thing for Leah Thompson. Look at her now, and look at this movie now, and I kind of question why, because I don't get it. I'm looking at it going, I don't get it. But then I was a huge Back to the Future fan, so maybe it kind of stems from that. It would be, as I said, released in 3D during something of a revival of the early 80s, including Friday the 13th Part 3, which was chief among its trend. The film essentially follows the Brody kids, much older now. Michael works at said water park where a shark infiltrates the centre and kills people left, right and centre. They capture a shark, which they believe to be the culprit, but it turns out that there's a much bigger beast in the water than... there was a much bigger beast in the water that was behind it all. There were 5 death kills in this one. There's Shelby Overman, who was torn apart by the shark. Randy, who's killed off screen by the shark. We get Ed, who's killed off screen also by the shark. And then Phillips Fitzroyce gets devoured by the shark.
Great character name.
And then Fred is torn apart by the shark.
Poor
Fred.
Like Terry.
Yeah, exactly.
Can't bother naming him the surname.
Just give him Fred. Finally, the shark is conquered when he's conquered by a grenade that was lodged in its mouth, which was still attached to the hand of Phillips Fitzroyce. And Michael Brody pulls the pin and the shark explodes, killing it. Do you guys, have you watched it? Are you familiar with it?
I stopped at 2.
Well, it's probably good that you did, to be honest.
It's kind of like the Superman series, the original Superman series.
Yeah.
It's just...
Because I admittedly haven't gone back and rewatched these movies, but I did rewatch the trailer.
Yes.
And it wasn't so much a trailer, it was more just a clip of Dennis Quaid running after... getting people out of the water, performing, ski tricks. Yeah,
that's actually quite a good bit, because that's the bit where they realise how big the shark is, and there's a massive panic, because they realise it's in the complex and they need to try and get everyone out of the water. So the tension's kind of really built up at that point. And you've got Dennis in there acting his heart out, but bless him, it doesn't help when you've got such a shit kind of plot line to deal with.
Which I never even knew was in this. In a Jaws movie. So I remember Michael Caine being in one of them, and that was about it. I couldn't have told you which one either.
Sure.
But,
he's not trying to do an American accent, is he?
No, he doesn't.
But with the premise of the movie, I'm like, oh, that's cool. His son sort of, picks up the mantle and starts, leaving where his dad left off, kind of thing. It's great. But then the fact it's in SeaWorld kind of feels a bit limiting.
Yeah,
so
I know.
Right, let's just close it down. Let's empty the tank. I'm sure there's more to
the water drain out and just a withering shark at the bottom going, oh, bugger.
Just 2 hours of a tank empty. Oh, shit.
Yeah, no, that's right. Yeah, look, it wasn't the best, and even the 3D components in it were pretty shit. I instantly compare it to I instantly compare it to Friday the 13th Part 3. Came out the same year. It was when the big boom happened in 1983. Everyone was like, hey, let's make 3D movies. But Friday the 13th Part 3 actually does it really well. There's some really kind of nice bits in it. Arguably, they milk some of the effects in it, but there are some bits where it pays off. And when you compare it to this one, it just looks, this looks shit, really shit in comparison.
They've made it 35-foot shots, like 10 extra feet. To go, oh look, it's bigger.
It's
they can say it in the trailer. I take it they still use the music.
Yes, they do, but not anywhere nearly as well executed. There's a bit in it where it's the bit where the two kind of oceanographers are telling the guy that owns the SeaWorld Centre about the fact there's a huge shark in there, at which point it's in like an underwater kind of cafe kind of restaurant, and at which point they turn and they all look in shock horror as this thing kind of starts coming towards them and smashes through the screen, supposedly in 3D.
It's a glass coming at your face.
That's it. And it's so awful.
It must be quite interesting watching it in normal 2D at home.
Well, that's the thing, because it doesn't translate across properly. So that's the format that you're given, and it looks really shit. Okay, which leads us, talking of shit, to the last movie. Jaws: The Revenge came out in 1987. Many critics considered this to be one of the worst movies ever made. It was panned on release. The film was nominated for 7 Golden Raspberry Awards. In the story context, the film focuses on Ellen Brody, Lorraine Gray, who comes back again to played her character.
This I remember now.
Yeah, and she starts having these convictions that a shark is seeking revenge on her family.
That's it. Now it's got a vendetta.
Yeah, particularly because it's like the whole Son of Jaws kind of thing.
Yeah.
Particularly when a great white follows her to the Bahamas.
That's it.
So
it just goes on holiday.
Yeah.
I remember now.
So,
oh my god.
So is the shark incognito, like with a hat?
He's got a Hawaiian shirt on.
Stalking her.
Yeah.
What are you doing? Nothing. Just making some cocktails. So they've already explained with Martin Brody's character's absent because he's died of a heart attack, and she says that's because of the sharks have caused him to have this heart attack and die. The son, the young son, is killed at the very beginning by a shark attack. So it basically just leaves the two kind of Brody characters that are left. So there's the mum and the Michael character. It completely ignores the fact that 3D Jaws 3D the Revenge completely ignores the fact that 3D happened.
It's timeline's more fucked up than
exactly. So it's all over the place. So it's and as we said, it stars Michael Caine as Hoagie, and Mario Van Peebles is in this too, in probably one of the worst Jamaican accents or whatever accent he's trying to put across ever, which I was surprised about. I was like, wow, Mario Van Peebles, far out. As I said, there's only 3 deaths in this. Martin Brody, as mentioned, has died from a heart attack, and that happens before the events of the film. We see Sean Brody dismembered and devoured by the shark, and the last one is Mrs. Ferguson, who's dragged away by the shark.
Not Mrs. Ferguson.
The final demise of the shark comes from when it's, and this is laughable, it comes when it gets impaled by a boat and then blown up. So it's impaled by a boat, which is driven by Ellen Brody, after it's leaping out of the water. In the lead up to it, it's being blasted by impulses through the water caused by Michael Brody, and the result is that upon impact, as it's being impaled, the shark explodes.
What do you mean? You mean emotional impulses?
Impulses that are shockwaves that are sent through.
Just like, he's a psychic.
Oh, it's just like...
Twist. He's a psychic.
Yeah.
So what's he making the pulses with? Is it just
it's like this electronical kind of waves that is being blasted through the...
This actually sounds like it's so bad it's good though.
I'm almost...
No, it's not that. It doesn't get anywhere near that. It's just terrible.
I feel like the sharks in this movie should be up for the Darwin Awards. Like they're connecting electrical cables, they're screwing themselves into front plates.
They're kamikaze sharks, really. But I mean, this sounds like more along, like it's like Sharknado took that and times to buy.
Yeah, exactly.
11.
Yeah, completely.
Pushed it into the ridiculous.
Well, that's exactly it. Like, so yes, we're primarily here talking about Jaws and the franchise that that came out of it with these other 3 films, but there's been countless other shark films that have gone out there ever since. You look up horror movies that are born out of the natural kind of killers. So like creatures crocodiles and things like that. Yeah. So there's crocs, there's piranhas, as I've mentioned before, and there's countless of other things. It even goes to chemical kind of chemical imbalance and stuff that comes into play. Chief amongst these is shark attacks, like the shark movies. It trumps all of the other ones combined. Which kind of says a lot about how Sharknado, exactly, like 4 of those have come into effect.
But I mean, that's because they're actually a boogeyman that exists in real life. They're almost like
exactly. They're nature's best predator. They've been around, since the dawn of prehistoric kind of era. That have adapted and formed to become what is known as the sharks today.
And it's perfect because they are unseen, because they're lurking just beneath the surface, and it's
and you're vulnerable. You're in your speedos or whatever, your mankini, and you're floating there in the water. Your legs are dangling, like you're most vulnerable.
Yeah, and that's it. That's exactly it. And it's still in something that's in contention today. Like we live in Australia, and it's countlessly
Mick Fanning punching the shark.
It's still
Jaws 5.
Well, you could actually. I'd like to see someone put Mick Fanning into every shark movie ever made, just punching the shark at some point.
Who knows? He could be in Sharknado 5 at some point.
Cracking on that, Nick. Yeah.
But I mean, even now, like you guys were talking at the beginning about The Shallows as well. That's kind of like been the latest, I guess, installment into shark horror. I mean, it sounds like you guys weren't so favourable of it.
Yes, but there's obviously it's obviously impossible to talk about any shark film without referencing Jaws at some point.
That's the thing, isn't it? Like, but you know, that's exactly my point. And then I guess this is why we're doing this podcast now, to kind of tie in the fact with The Shallows coming out in the cinemas. But yeah, there's been so many of it, and there's been some good ones in there, like some that have kind of actually done semi-decently. Like I think of The Reef and Open Water are examples of where they've used that in a kind of clever way. Mm-hmm. The less said about Open Water 2, the better. But even like Deep Blue Sea did it in a very kind of fun, jocular way.
It's a lot more shocky, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. Yeah. But it knew that, and it wore it on the team.
Looks more fake than Bruce does.
Yeah.
I mean, it swims backwards, for God's sake.
Yeah, but with the moment when the moment that's their jump scare moment when Sam Jackson gets like taken away by the shark.
Yeah,
it's pretty awesome. Like,
it's one of the best kills in films ever because it's so like unexpected.
He's giving his big speech, and you expect to be like,
mid-sentence.
It's great.
But the shark in that scene just looks it's on par with Sharknado, like quality of CGI. Right.
So what this kind of lends us to, like, there's another behemoth shark movie that's being made at the moment. It's going to come out. I think it's next year. It's called Meg, and it basically is Jason Statham movie. If you're not aware of it, and he comes across like a big mega shark. It's like a dinosaur kind of prehistoric shark.
Oh, like the ones we used to have down in Australia, like Megalodon.
Megalodon, that was the one. Yeah, it's kind of
a movie called that as well.
Yeah, so it's kind of arcing towards that. So it'll be interesting to see how that comes about.
Work.
Meg.
All
right, Meg.
All right.
How's it going?
So it's the least threatening,
Maybe that's just it's just a red herring. It's actually Statham's character's name in the film.
It's called Meg.
Meg. My name's Meg.
Or maybe it's his pet shark. One man and Meg, and they go around solving crimes together.
One man and Meg.
If he doesn't punch a shark, though, I'd be pretty disappointed.
Yeah. I
was very disappointed with Liam Neeson's The Grey. He didn't punch a wolf at any point in that film. So I feel like...
Wait, can we backtrack? Were you disappointed in the film, or you were disappointed in the fact that he didn't punch a shark?
He didn't punch a wolf at any point.
Okay.
But if Liam Neeson's in a movie about pack of wolves they're hunting...
That movie's awesome.
I was waiting for the moment when he fought a wolf, and it cuts, like, the film stops.
I know.
That moment.
Oh my god, you guys!
He has his "get busy living" or "get busy dying" moment. Attaches the bottles to his knuckles, and then it cuts like it was like a Sopranos moment, like cut the black.
To me, that was one of the better movies that came out that year. It's awesome. But we can agree to differ, Ben.
You've got to give the payoff at that moment.
Yeah. All right, guys. Look, that kind of essentially wraps us up for the Jaws franchise. Thank you very much for kind of taking part, and Nick. Pleasure. I hope it wasn't too bloody for you and throwing you.
Is that because it's my first time?
Exactly. Yeah. Man, I was trying to do it in a not so subtle way, but no, that's all right. I might leave that in. But yeah, thanks again for your input. And Ben, likewise, thanks for coming aboard and having a chat.
Thank you. You can't really. It's hard to do this film justice when you're talking about it, isn't it? Because everything's kind of been said already about it. But I think...
having said that, if you haven't seen it, you've got to go and watch it. It's like, a completely different subject, but movie. But Casablanca, right, is up there as one of the better movies of that era, and a lot of it is because of the lines that are said. Like when I've rewatched it, it's a lot of it is because of the lines that we all know that's come out of it. And I'm using that as an example of why people should go and watch Jaws if they haven't. They might think that they have seen it all before, but to see where it all began and as we said, it stands up to this day. It's a very good piece of movie storytelling.
Yeah, even if you're not into necessarily, and if you're squeamish or stay away from that typically.
Yeah.
But it's just like Nick said, it's the characters and the dialogue that
absolutely
will draw you in.
Cool. And with that, that's us for this kind of special podcast of the Jaws franchise. Keep on listening as we start churning through more of the John Carpenter franchise early years. And that's it for me. Paul, goodbye.
See ya.
You're listening to the Surgeons of Horror podcast, the Jaws franchise. Music supplied by Peter Nizik. For more discussions or podcasts, head over to surgeonsofhorror.com or head over to our Facebook and Twitter sites for the latest news and updates.